welcome to Sam and Kev's Outdoor Adventures. I'm Kev. Today I am up the Rangitata River in the Canterbury High Country. An area probably best known for a couple of its Lord of the Rings filming locations, including Edoras, that was the capital of Rohan, which was filmed on Mount Sunday, and also Helms Gate, that is located just on the other side of the Rangitata River, by the confluence of the Havelock River that comes into it. To get here, there is quite a long shingle road to drive along that I'm heading away, but the location I'm going to today is Lawrence Bivvy and Hells Gate, so really looking forward to that. The weather's got a pretty good forecast. There was a little bit of an inversion layer early on, but that looks like it's burnt off, so off we go. So the tramp to Lawrence Bivvy starts at Erewhon Station, which is nowhere spelt backwards. You have to go through a tiny little bit of Erewhon Station, which is private land, to get into the Rangitata riverbed. To do that, you need to contact Erewhon Station to get permission. There is an intentions book to fill out your name and details, and there's also a clearly marked place where you can park your car. But looking up the river valley, it looks absolutely spectacular and magnificent views. So I've reached the confluence of the Lawrence and Clyde River. It's taken me probably about an hour 15 to get up to here. I've been monitoring the river levels pretty closely, and they were probably the lowest in the Rangitata they'd been for the last month, and I've got to here without coming across any water at all. So still got dry boots. I imagine there'll be some river crossings somewhere up and ahead of me, but next stop will be at Lawrence Hut. It is also possible to come up the Clyde and Lawrence Rivers in a four-wheel drive. From a walking perspective, that does mean when you come across the tracks, it makes it a little bit easier to walk along, like this one that I'm on now. So here we go. Here is Lawrence Hut. It's taken almost dead on 2.5 hours to get here from Erewhon Station. It's probably about 10 kilometres, but most of it's travel on the riverbed, so it's very, very fast. So looking inside the hut, we've got 6 bunks, a stainless steel bench, and a wee pot belly stove, in addition to a small table down there. So nice wee hut set up on a plateau out from in above the river, where you can look out at some spectacular mountain views. So I pushed along the plateau after leaving Lawrence Hut in the direction towards Lawrence Bivvy. I don't think I would suggest that as a way to go. It looked okay at the start. There was a nice four-wheel drive track heading along, but then it kind of petered out. There's a lot of Matagari and a small kind of bluff dropping down to the river, so it took about 1 kilometre of pushing through the Matagari until eventually I got down the riverbed. So I think, in hindsight, better to way you came into Lawrence Hut is probably the best way to go back out again and access back into the riverbed, and then carry on up to Lawrence Bivvy from there. So we're just about here. I think Lawrence Bivvy is probably about 600 metres away. Up and behind me is where Hells Gate is. I think I might head up there and pitch the tent and camp up there. But the bivvy itself is just in behind that kind of dense bits of shrub up there just ahead of me. So we'll head off there now. So to get to the Lawrence Biv, you actually head upstream a little bit in the Lawrence River, and then when you get to the topo map, you can then cut in onto this little grassy bit. Even when you do that, you won't be able to see the Biv, and there's a reason for that, because this Biv is absolutely tiny. Let's go in and have a look. Here it is. As you can see, you'd have to be reasonably short to stand up in it, because the floor starts down there. It's recently been done up and it's had a nice, fantastic new paint job, but pretty tiny little door, and we'll crawl on in here. As you can see, we've got no beds. Geez, mattresses on the floor. There's 3 mattresses. There's a little bit of a bench, a tiny wee seat, and a window out there, and that's about it. So she's a tight squeeze getting in. Hands and knees. Even on my knees, the head just about touches the roof in the tallest part. So Lawrence Biv has been done up recently by the Ashburton branch of the New Zealand Deerstalkers Association, and they have done a fantastic job. Reading the hut book, it looks like they're coming back in the very near future to paint it rescue orange, so don't expect, if you're coming up here, to see it coloured white. Me, however, I think I'm going to try and find a place to tent. I'm going to head up the valley a little bit to a couple of waterfalls called HELLS Gate. It's probably only about 500 metres, so not a particularly long way to go. It's taken me probably a fraction under 5.5 hours to get up here from Erewhon Station. It's pretty good going. Like, that covers probably about 21k, but it's all in riverbed. It's quite flat, and for a lot of it, you've got 4-wheel drive vehicle tracks that you can follow along. But I'm going to push on up here, see if I can find somewhere flat. If I can, I'll put my tent up. If I can't, I'll be back at the Biv. Right, I've found myself a site. I'm going to politely describe it as flattish. I might regret this site later on, but it's actually not that far away from the Biv. We've probably only gone 150, 200 metres, but this has spectacular views. So let's have a look what we've got here. If we look up that way, you can see the waterfall towards HELLS Gate. We spin on around here. We look down the Lawrence River that we walked up this morning, and then on this side we've got looking up the Lawrence River. Like, that's just absolutely spectacular panoramic views on all sides. So the tent's all set up, and I'm going to make my way up now, up the hill, see if we can get an up close look at the HELLS Gates waterfall. Doesn't look like too much of a climb, maybe 100-150 metres vertical to the base of them, so that shouldn't be too bad. So in terms of the Hells Gate waterfalls, I believe there are 3. There is one just here. There's a second one here, which I think has got no water running through it, but the one that I'm heading up to, which is the one that I can see from my tent site, is number 3. This one up here, which looks by far the best of all of them.
Keas are probably one of my favourite birds, and I really love trying to record wildlife when I'm out tramping, but I'm also really careful to make sure that I try not to disturb them. But the great thing about keas is sometimes you can just wait for them, and they're so inquisitive that they tend to come over and check you out, which makes it somewhat easier to film them. So you can use loo paper for a few more things than just wiping your bum. And today we're going to use it to get ourselves a fire going. We're pretty lucky we came across a dead turpentine bush put down the river, so that should go pretty well. So today's been a pretty good day. 2 marvellous huts to have a look at. I don't know quite what I think my favourite thing is. Certainly the mountain scenery was absolutely spectacular, but probably the highlight was the little Kia that came to see me while I was up at Hells Gate waterfall. I was a little bit worried at the time maybe he'd come back and bring all his mates with him to attack my tent, but that hasn't happened. But that was fantastic. I got a couple of shots of him sitting up there at the waterfall in the background, and I think possibly that's the highlight for today.
So we've had quite a severe frost overnight, quite a lot of ice sitting around outside and on the outside of the tent, which explains why it was a little bit chilly last night. Well, that brings an end to this fantastic tramp to Lawrence Hut, Lawrence Bivvy, and my tenting spot at HELLS Gate. It's been a fantastic trip, and I have really enjoyed it. So job now, get the tent defrosted, pack that up, and head about 20k back down the river. But hope you've enjoyed the video. If you do, give it a like. If you'd like to see some more, hit subscribe, and hopefully Sam and I will see you next time we're out tramping.